Hi everybody, just wanted to welcome you to Professional Physical Therapy and the Clinical Excellence Department. Here, meet the team. So you got Rob Panarello. Rob is our Chief Clinical Officer. He's also one of the founding partners for Professional Physical Therapy. Next is me, Rob Shapiro. I'm the Director of Clinical Excellence for the company. Down here we have Frank Hefner. Frank is the Regional Clinical Excellence guy for Long Island and Queens. He's also Director of the Residency Program. Next, we have Nicole McManus. Nicole is a Regional Clinical Excellence Director in New England. Owen Lennon. Owen's the Regional Clinical Excellence Director of New Jersey. And we have Ben Gelfand, who's the Regional Clinical Excellence Director of New York City. And here we have Dennis Gill. Dennis runs our Professional Seminars division, and he's in charge of the LMS, and he's our technology guru throughout the department. So what do we do in Clinical Excellence? We run our student program, which we call the CAP program, Clinical Affiliation Program. Every year we have about 250, 260 people go through the program from 100 different schools. We're also responsible for developing the curriculum for the company. We run our professional seminars we talked about before with Donis. We have a clinical mentoring part, which we'll talk about shortly. We have a residency program run by Frank. We're in charge of outcomes and outcomes delivery for Photo. So our philosophy as a department. We want to effectively communicate to our patients, the families, professionals, physicians. We want to use sound clinical reasoning, which is important for best practices. We want to have a proficient understanding and implementation of the essential skills to be effective and efficient in patient care. And we want to effectively design a rehab program based on scientific evidence, the clinician's experience, and patient's experiences, beliefs, etc. And we value lifelong learning. I've been doing this for almost 30 years and still want to learn, and still our department is very clinically based and very interested in continuing to learn throughout. So what do we develop? What do we have? We kind of work through a biopsychosocial model. It's something you might have learned in school. The biomedical part is the diagnosis, is skilled manual therapy, it's the diagnosis what the patient came in for. The psychological part is sometimes the part we don't always think about. You look at people's learning styles, their fears, their stressors, the psychology of getting better or not, and social, the family, the support system, what's around them. The psychology part's pretty interesting. I think of a patient years ago who worked in a chronic pain program. In that program, we had a patient who came in. It's a 4-week program. Came in, was horrible, all shifted, etc. We did a program got the first 2 weeks. He did unbelievably well. The psychology, when he said, time to go back and let's do a job site evaluation. Went into total spasm. Okay, so you're thinking in an environment where you can't control it, he doesn't want to get better, etc. We had the option or the ability to do EMG testing, MRIs, because we're in a hospital-based. He came back, everything was fine, except for EMG was increased activity of that tissue. My first time seeing really the psychology component of it, and that's huge, and it's very important. And we take the two parts. We put our clinical excellence way. We talked about communication, the sound clinical reasoning, the skills, etc., with a biopsychosocial model. You put them together, and this is our culture. Okay, we don't just treat the patient. We don't just treat a medical diagnosis. We treat the patient. What are our tracks? So we have an education track. We have components of our education program. What you're doing now is the Essentials course. Now it's videotape, this part of it, and then we'll do part of it will be live, where we get more interaction. We have a mentorship program, which is the next part. The mentorship program begins as a 12-week program. It is 1.5 to 2 hours for 12 weeks in a row. We have one mentor to 4 to 5 mentees, go over a specific program specifically tailored to each part of the body. Once you're done with that, we go through foundations classes, which are smaller classes, probably 4 weeks each. So we have a lumbar, a lower quarter, cervical, upper quarter, post-surgical, and then we have a specialty. Now we do hip. We'll probably start doing some more women's health, etc. But those are smaller groups, but still meet 1 to 2 hours a week for 3 to 4 weeks in a row. So here it looks what it looks like. The Essentials class, by the time you're done, it's about 6 hours. The Novice Mentor class we talked about is about 18 hours. That's 12 weeks, 1.5 hours to 2 hours. And the other classes probably last anywhere between 1.5 hours and 2, and some is done online as well. So this will probably take you a total of 18 months to go through this program. So what are the essentials? What is the essentials part? So we're talking about when you build a house, you build a foundation, you need the essentials. You need the materials to make up the cement. That's what essentials is. It's the basics. It's the bottom line stuff you need to have as a clinician to be effective and efficient. What are we going to discuss today? We're going to go over the patient experience, which is important. We talked about the psychosocial part. Talk a little bit about your learning styles and your patient's learning styles. We're going to go through a healing continuum, so you understand, even though you've done it a million times, understand the basics of healing and understand when to progress somebody through the healing process. Talk about a rehab model that was developed by Rob Panarello and modified by Clinical Excellence. I'll talk about that. We'll learn about clinical reasoning, sound clinical reasoning, the importance of it, and the overview a little bit. We'll talk about a little bit about the components of the cervical lumbar shoulder in the essentials course or foundations courses going forward. Objectives we talked about: get introduced to the team, which we already did. Learn to maximize that patient experience coming up. Be able to identify the learning style, which is important. Understand the phases of healing. Understand each phase, the hierarchy of development. We'll talk about rehab concepts. And participants will understand the general framework we'll talk about for our foundations classes. Where do we start? The patient experience, customer service, the important part. One of my favorites is Starbucks. So Howard Schultz said Starbucks has a role and a meaningful relationship with people. It's not just about coffee. And the key part to that is that it's not about coffee. So my way from here to my house, in corporate to my house, I pass probably 5 Starbucks. And I really like one. I'll go to all of them because I like the coffee somewhat, but I really like the experience. So I'll go to one, and what I like about the one is when I go in, I always have my order ready. One time I went in and I always have banana bread, and the guy behind the counter knew I was going to come in, only had one left, so he put it to the side. He goes, "Rob, I put one to the side because I knew you're going to come in for banana bread." And that's what you want. It's something different. We're talking about 175, 180 facilities, professional, but each one is different. You walk in, you feel a different vibe. Each one has their own little culture, and that's what the important part to remember, that you're part of that culture. And Jeff Bezos, you know, he is probably the richest man in the world. He's the Amazon founder and CEO. He wrote, "There's one reason we have done better than our peers in the internet space over the last 6 years. It's because we have focused like a laser on customer service." And that's customer experience, and that's key. One of the students in the class, the live class we did, I asked you, and I'll ask you also, and you'll write it down. We'll discuss in the live part. But what do you like about a company, or what about a company makes you want to go back to that company? Somebody told me about Amazon. So he bought $500 worth of books. What happened was it rained out. The books were left out in front of his house, got soaked. Called Amazon. There's no problem. They sent him another shipment free of books, and they gave him a $200 gift card to Amazon because we know how hard it is to be a student. So that guy's going to be a student. He's basically going to be a customer for life. That's huge. Okay, so what is the Disney Yellow Line? One of my favorite stories. So my wife and I went to Disney. We left the kids home, and we decided we're going to do a Disney trip because we love Disney, and we didn't have the kids. So we did a back street tour, a tour of the back of Disney. Look at Disney. If you look at Disney and you look on the ground, and there'll be a yellow line. What does that mean? So what they said during the tour is you're on one side of the yellow line. If you're on the offstage side, you can do whatever you want. Mickey Mouse can be anything he wants. You can smoke a cigarette, anything you want. Because no matter where you are in the park, they look from every perspective. You can't see the character. If you're on this side where the sneakers are of the yellow line, then you're on stage. And the key is you have to act the part. So I always tell my therapist and tell my front desk, there's a yellow line at the front desk. If you pass the yellow line, you're in Disney. Everything, you have to be aware of everything. Go on the other side of the yellow line, you can do whatever you want. Just go about 1,000 feet from the building, but you can do whatever you want. Give a story, an old therapist I know years ago, didn't realize he kind of sneezed into his hands and didn't wash his hands, but the clinic is open. So everybody's like, "Oh!" So one of my patients says, "Look at that guy. He just sneezed and didn't wash his hands." And that's the key. People are watching all the time. Just be aware. You're always on that side. They can hear you. They can see you. That's key to it. What I want you to do in your lab manual, you'll see you downloaded. There's a page that says, "Take a few minutes." In that page, and that page is number 3. Take a few minutes and write down your best customer experience. Okay, what we'll do is we'll talk about it in the live component of it, but just think about it now. What did you do? Where did you go? Did you give certain customer service which was above and beyond? All right, so take a few minutes, shut the tape, write it down, and when you're ready, join me again. Okay, welcome back. Write down what you could do to make sure these errors are addressed. So the thing to think about is your most unhappy customer are your greatest source of learning, Bill Gates. And that's key. I can say throughout my career, there are times that, that those are the things I learned the most. Remember once a patient told me, I thought we were doing well with them. They needed Therax, they needed exercise. I had a need with me, JJ, who was amazing, helped, would work with him a lot just because he was very good with them. Patient took me to the side and said, hey, look, I like him, but it's not you. I want you to spend the time with me. And that was important. I'll never forget that. That was probably 20 years ago. I won't forget that. Anything that happens, and those are the ones we always talk about. We want to hear the good things and how we did well. But anytime there's something that didn't work out well, that's where you're going to learn from. And remember that. You're always going to have some situations. 30 years later, I still have those, but I still learn from them. What can we do to make it better? So what kind of things can we do throughout the day? Before you see your patients, review a game plan for the day's treatment. You always there's going to be a period of time. Look at your schedule, the reality of it, and you can go, ugh, so-and-so. And the reason you say that, it's probably not because of so-and-so. It's just because you don't know what to do with that patient, and it kind of throws off your day. So if you plan early, come up with a game plan, it makes a big difference. Make sure the staff is engaged throughout the treatment. Don't just do your manual and just kind of walk away, or don't huddle around with groups. Stay engaged. Always go up to patients and I'll give them a tap on the shoulder. Hey, how you doing? Or they're doing a row, and I'll go to them. Hey, Jim, bring your shoulders down. You're aware of it. Or don't roll backwards. Their goals. If they're an ACL patient and they come in, they should know in the first week they have to have 0 degrees of extension. Maybe by the 4 or 5 week, they have to have 120 degrees, etc. Discuss the rationale and purpose of each exercise with the patient. Make sure you understand why. You're not just doing a bunch of leg lifts, but why am I doing it? You're doing a side abduction lift because those muscles are what stabilizes you when you're standing on one leg during gait, which is 60% of your cycle. Things like that. Ask for feedback from your patients. What can we do better? How are we doing? One of my partners would always go walk around and say, hey, how are we doing? Are we helping you? And that's key. Minimum meeting at the mound. What that means is, we look for baseball, people meet at the mound. You don't want to all go around one table and just start talking and keep the patients out of the loop. The patients should be engaged with you. If you're going to talk, make sure it's not just a weekend, but get people engaged with it, not just meet around the mound. Where do I start to meet my patients' needs? So this is an interesting question. How much do your patients really hear? Is it really what you say? Is it the tone you use? Body language? What do you think? Is it 55? Which one is 55? Which is 7? And which is 38%? I'll let you think about it for a second. Okay, here we go. 7% is really verbal. It's what you say. Okay, and the key to what you say is good communication is usually brief, succinct, clear, and organized. Free of jargon. You don't use rotator cuff. You don't say you have a slap lesion with a rotator cuff. You kind of explain it. You might have talk about a labral tear, and you say it's like an O-ring in your shoulder, etc. So use words that they understand. Good communication skills, choosing words that are easily understood. We talked about limit jargon, give metaphors. Kind of the idea of, like I talk about when we talk about healing. The fibers will get laid down like a bunch of spider webs. We're trying to take that tissue and kind of lengthen it, so when it heals in a good position. Have empathy, not sympathy. Don't pity the patient. Don't allow your tone to be dismissive or hopeless. Take interest in who they are and what makes them tick. Understand them. You'll have a patient always tell all the time. Talk to somebody. Remember that their son's birthday, when they went to a certain place, etc. What makes them tick? I know therapists who some are very good with patients and some have more trouble, but then all of a sudden you have somebody who comes in with your interest, and they're the best ever. So our phrase is open questions, listen, tell me more about, really get in there and talk about it. Leave room for opportunity for discussion. Don't you just start talking, let them talk. Tell you what you need to know. 38% This is paravertebral, paraverbal. The tone, the pitch, the pacing of your voice. Affected by emotional states, the angry or excited speech becomes more rapid, high-pitched, bored, feeling down, slow, monotone. Okay, defensive, speech is abrupt. So the tone, I mean, sometimes you have to do is find out where the patient is and kind of decide, if you have a guy who's a 15-year-old football player, and you got to go with motivation. You have to talk excited, right, etc. If you have somebody who's in chronic pain, you want to be nice and slow and discuss it. Talking about this, my aide JJ is a very energetic person. So the problem is he would run around, and some people loved it because they loved the energy. Some people couldn't stand it because it was too much for them. So you got to meet them where they are, and it's pretty much how you say stuff. So look at this. You read it with me, but I didn't say you were stupid. 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 The other ones I didn't say you were stupid. Sorry, I didn't say you were stupid. So those are important, okay? And then the last one is nonverbal, which is the 55%. It's all what you say, your facial expressions, your movement of your extremities, can display confidence, insecurity, nervousness. If you sit there and you're kind of, moving your body and you're taking your fingers and you're doing that and you're kind of taking your shoulders up by your ears, people will catch that. Look at this picture, it's a great one. You kind of see all the components, oh my gosh, or thinking, or I don't know, oy vey, happy, sad. So it's all about what your body language is. You can say whatever you want, but if the body language, if you react to a patient not interested, then they'll pick it up. That's key. So what communication skills? Show your interest. Okay, look at them in eye contact during your discussions. Face the patient at the same eye level. So I do that when in an evaluation. I always look at the patient. I'll make sure I'm usually sitting. I'll be at the same level. Usually I won't go across a desk because I want them to have that eye contact. Keep your body relaxed, open, lend an ear, etc. So stop interviewing from behind the EMR. I have a funny part. My doctor, when they first started doing the EMRs, he'd talk to me and he'd have his back face to me and he'd be type away. So I would just stop. Kind of wait until he was finished, and he said, "What's the matter?" He goes, "Well, I kind of want to talk to you, not your back." Teeing around, but people do notice that. They understand that. But you have to get your work done, but you have to kind of, if you want to you can bring your computer next to you. Get up and move around, talk with your hands, or ask follow-up questions to make sense, to gain insight. Assist them and enhance their comfort in any way you can. Stop talking and listen. Actively and deeply listen to what they're saying. And avoid interrupting them or trying to finish their sentences. So patient-centered care. Check with your patients throughout the visit. Verbal feedback, corrections, recommendations we talked about. Nonverbal. Face the patient. Acknowledge them. Make manual corrections. Again, JJ's story is that he would go around and I would fix somebody's pelvis, and he's set up an exercise, and he goes, "I did a perfect job setting up that exercise, but you went over and fixed it." I want the patient to understand that I'm watching them, that I'm the therapist in charge of them, and that's important to get that feeling of it. So we kind of understood that over time. So I like this saying, which is, "I've learned that people will forget what you say, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And that's important. That's a great saying in life.